In 2010, you could buy one Bitcoin for less than 1 cent. Not $1, 1 cent. The entire cryptocurrency market was worth almost nothing. The people buying it were mostly programmers, cypherpunks, and a handful of idealists who believed that money itself was broken and that someone had finally built a fix. Most people who heard about Bitcoin in those early years laughed. Economists called it a joke. Governments ignored it. Major banks said it would be dead within a year. And almost everyone who was told about it early passed. But a small group of people did not pass. They read the white paper. They ran the numbers. They saw something in the technology that the mainstream could not or would not see. And they held on, sometimes through drops of 80 and 90%, while the world told them they were delusional. Today, we are going to talk about those people, the legends of crypto, the ones who were there before it was cool, before it was mainstream, and before it was worth anything. Their stories are not just about getting rich. They are about conviction, timing, and what happens when you are willing to believe in something the entire world thinks is insane. We have to start with Satoshi Nakamoto, because without Satoshi, there is no story. There is no Bitcoin. There is no crypto industry worth trillions of dollars. There is nothing. In October 2008, right in the middle of the global financial crisis, while banks were collapsing and governments were printing money to bail out the very institutions that caused the crash, an anonymous person or group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a 9-page document. It was called a white paper, and it described a system for sending money directly between two people anywhere in the world, without a bank, without a government, without any middleman at all. The timing was not an accident. The financial crisis had just exposed how fragile and corrupt the traditional banking system was. And Satoshi had built an alternative. Nobody knew who Satoshi was. Nobody still knows. The name is almost certainly a pseudonym. Every attempt to identify the real person or people behind it has failed. What we do know is that Satoshi mined approximately 1 million Bitcoin in the early days. Coins that have never moved from their original wallet. At peak prices, that fortune was worth over $60 billion. It remains untouched to this day. And then in 2011, Satoshi simply disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. Just gone. Leaving behind the most consequential financial invention since paper money, and a mystery that may never be solved. You might know the Winklevoss twins from the Facebook story. They sued Mark Zuckerberg claiming he stole their idea for a social network. They settled for $65 million. And most people assume that was the end of their story. But in 2012, Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss did something that almost everyone around them thought was reckless. They took a significant portion of that settlement money and bought Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin was trading for around $8 to $10 per coin. They accumulated approximately 1% of all Bitcoin in existence. Their friends thought they had lost their minds. Serious investors warned them they were throwing their settlement away. The financial press ignored them entirely. They did not sell. They held through crash after crash. They watched Bitcoin drop 80%, then recover, then drop again, then recover further. While everyone around them was skeptical, they were quietly building. They launched Gemini, one of the first regulated cryptocurrency exchanges in the United States. They fought regulators, built compliance frameworks, and worked to bring legitimacy to an industry the establishment wanted nothing to do with. By 2021, the Winklevoss twins were Bitcoin billionaires. Their original investment had multiplied thousands of times over. The $65 million they had won from Facebook, a settlement most people considered a consolation prize, had become the seed capital for one of the greatest investment returns in modern financial history. They did not just believe in Bitcoin, they built the infrastructure that made it possible for millions of others to access it. In 2011, a 12-year-old boy named Eric Finman was given $1,000 by his grandmother. His teachers had already told him he was not smart enough for college. His school counselor suggested he apply to work at McDonald's. His parents did not know what to do with him. Eric took his grandmother's $1,000 and put it entirely into Bitcoin when it was trading at around $12 per coin. He did not do it because he had done years of research. He was 12. He did it because his older brother had told him about it and it sounded interesting. He made a bet with his parents. If he was a millionaire by 18, he would not have to go to college. By the time Eric was 18, Bitcoin had risen enough that his original $1,000 investment had grown to over $4 million. He won the bet. He did not go to college. He started companies, became a public voice in the crypto space, and built a life that looked nothing like what his school counselor had imagined for him. The reason this story matters is not because you should give your savings to a 12-year-old to invest. It matters because it illustrates something important about Bitcoin in its early days. The people who benefited most were not sophisticated Wall Street investors with research teams and risk models. They were regular people, sometimes very young, sometimes with very little money, who simply chose to believe early and hold on long enough for the rest of the world to catch up. If you are finding these stories as wild as I do, hit subscribe. We post a brand new video every single day. Stories like this, investing strategies, money psychology, all of it. Completely free. Now let us keep going because the next story is one of the most dramatic in all of crypto history. In 2013, a 19-year-old Russian-Canadian programmer named Vitalik Buterin had a problem with Bitcoin. Not with the idea of it. He loved the idea, but he thought it was too limited. Bitcoin could send money. But what if blockchain technology could do so much more than that? What if you could run entire programs on a blockchain? Programs that executed automatically without any human involvement, any lawyer, any bank? He wrote a white paper proposing exactly that. He called it Ethereum, and he sent it to a group of friends expecting them to find the flaws in his thinking. Instead, they told him it was one of the most important ideas they had ever read. Ethereum launched in 2015. It introduced the concept of smart contracts, self-executing agreements written in code that run automatically when conditions are met. This single idea unlocked an entirely new layer of the crypto industry. Decentralized finance, NFTs, token launches, entire applications running on a blockchain with no central authority controlling them. Vitalik did not do this for the money. In interviews, he has talked about being driven purely by the intellectual challenge and the belief that decentralized systems could create a more fair and open financial world. He has given away hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto to charity and pandemic relief. Today, Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency in the world by market cap, and Vitalik Buterin, who proposed the entire thing as a teenager in a white paper, is one of the most influential figures in the history of technology. Not every crypto legend is a billionaire. Some are famous for a very different reason. On May 22, 2010, a programmer named Laszlo Hanyecz made history by completing the first ever real-world transaction using Bitcoin. He posted on a Bitcoin forum offering 10,000 Bitcoin to anyone who would order him 2 pizzas. A fellow user took him up on it, ordered 2 Papa John's pizzas for about $25, and Laszlo sent over the Bitcoin. At the time, 10,000 Bitcoin was worth approximately $41. Laszlo thought he was getting a great deal. He was proving that Bitcoin could work as actual currency in the real world, which was the whole point of the experiment. What Laszlo could not have known was that those 10,000 Bitcoin would one day be worth over $700 million. 2 pizzas. $700 million. It is the most expensive meal in the history of human civilization. May 22nd is now celebrated in the crypto community as Bitcoin Pizza Day every single year. But here's the thing that most people miss about this story. Laszlo does not regret it. He has said so publicly many times. He was not trying to get rich. He was trying to prove that Bitcoin was real and functional, and he succeeded. His pizza purchase helped demonstrate that Bitcoin had real-world utility, which contributed to building the credibility that eventually made those coins worth what they became. He gave up $700 million, and he helped create a trillion-dollar industry. That is a trade most people would never even understand how to evaluate. When you look at all of these stories, Satoshi, the Winklevoss twins, Eric Finman, Vitalik Buterin, Laszlo Hanyecz, They seem very different on the surface. Different backgrounds, different ages, different amounts of money, different outcomes. But there is a thread that runs through all of them. Every single one of these people saw something early that the mainstream refused to see. They did not wait for permission. They did not wait for a bank to tell them it was safe. They did not wait for a government to approve it or a news anchor to cover it. They looked at the technology, they formed their own view, and they acted on it before the crowd arrived. That is the pattern behind almost every major wealth creation story in history, not just in crypto, in every industry. The people who benefit most from a new wave of technology or a new idea are almost never the ones who wait for consensus. They are the ones who are willing to look stupid in the short term in exchange for being right in the long term. Now, does that mean you should put your savings into the next cryptocurrency that someone messages you about on Instagram? Absolutely not. The same landscape that created these legends also created thousands of scams, rug pulls, and projects designed to take your money and disappear. What it means is that the habit of thinking independently, of looking at things before they are popular, of doing your own research rather than following the crowd, that habit is worth developing. Whether you are interested in crypto or not, because the next wave is always coming, and the people who study how the last wave worked will always be better positioned for the next one. The legends of crypto were not superhuman. They were not born with special abilities. Satoshi was a programmer with a vision and the courage to publish it. The Winklevoss twins were athletes turned entrepreneurs who were willing to back a bet everyone else laughed at. Eric Feynman was a 12-year-old who took a chance with $1,000 his grandmother gave him. Vitalik was a teenager with a notebook and an idea. What separated them from the millions of people who heard about Bitcoin and did nothing was not intelligence. It was action. It was the willingness to step into something uncertain before certainty existed. Every generation has its version of this moment. A technology or an idea that looks chaotic and uncertain on the outside but has something real underneath. The people who study how these moments work, who understand the patterns of early adoption, of network effects, of how new financial systems get built, those people are never caught completely off guard. They are watching, they are learning, they are ready. That is what this channel is for. Not to tell you what to buy or what to sell, but to show you how the world of money actually works, through the stories of the people who figured it out, the people who got it catastrophically wrong, and the principles that separate one from the other. The next chapter of financial history is already being written. The question is whether you are paying attention. If this video made you want to understand more about how money and technology intersect, subscribe right now. Tomorrow, we are going deep into personal finance, the foundations that every single one of these legends had in place before they made their big moves. You do not want to miss it. We post every single day and it is always free.